If season 3 was a little over the top for you, well, season 4 is in freaking outer space. Alright, welcome to Taste Take. Here's what we're doing today. We're talking about You. First, I'm going to go through the other seasons with most of the time spent on a season 3 recap. Then we'll get into season 4. This time around, they're doing it in 2 parts, 5 episodes per part. I've only seen part 1, so I'm only going to talk about part 1. But I will be breaking down the plot points. So if you don't want spoilers, you can go and watch the show and then come on back. Again, I have not seen part 2, so we're not talking about part 2. If that's something you're into, hit that subscribe button for your boy. For my regular taste takers, let's see if you for real or if it misses the mark. Get it? I said you for real, like you for, like season 4. Never mind. All right, how do we get here? If you're watching this review, you probably already know that You is a show on Netflix based on books of the same name. It's basically a stalker story from the stalker's perspective. And somehow, as each season goes on, we hate him less and less. Which is a moment of self-reflection. We need to sit down and figure out why we allowed this to happen. The first season out here is the one that's closest to the books. And when I say closest, I mean it's probably the only one that follows the source material. Season 1 is where everyone got hooked. It was a Lifetime show that nobody cared about until it hit Netflix. Joe was a super creepy guy that worked at a bookstore that was stalking Beck, killing all her homegirls, her ex-boyfriend, all that crazy stuff. Season 2 is where he met Love. It was like a fresh start, but he was all worried that she wouldn't keep loving him if she knew that he had a dark past. Then it freaking turns out that Love's past is just as dark as Joe's, so we all thought it was like the perfect pairing. A nice little twist in season 2. Then it's season 3. Keep in mind, Joe does try to kill her in the end of season 2, but she tells him that she's pregnant, so he can't So then in season 3, they move to California, trying to start a new life. They have like a newborn and they're married. So they're like, look, we gotta get out of here. This is gonna be a fresh start. We're gonna do this. Don't ask me how the police don't know that it's these 2 idiots behind all these murders, but I think it rhymes with bright scribblage. So they're on the West Coast trying to do this whole fresh start thing. And it almost works for like 24 hours because then Joe finds someone new to creep on, which is his next door neighbor, Natalie. He just happened to live right next door to someone that okay. Then surprisingly, Natalie's like into it. But then Joe's like, no. We can't do this. Because he knows that Love will kill her. Which Love does end up killing her anyway. So we kind of get to like 3 to 4 days in California without a murder. And that's pretty good. Then you got this whole love affair with Natalie's stepson, Theo, and Love. And he's in college, but somehow she's still kind of into it. Then there's the anti-vax neighbor that brought his kids to a park knowing he had the measles, and then it got Love and Joe's kid infected. Love also killed him. But that guy sucked. Then enter Marianne. That's Joe's boss at the library. He's gonna fall in love with her. You got the freaking momfluencer and her husband who want to swing with Joe and Love. And it actually almost happened because like they all went to the house and they were like starting to get freaky deaky. Then Love sees Joe getting a little too into it, which is I guess a problem in general when it comes to orgies and stuff like that and swinging. I heard. Anyway, so Love takes Joe downstairs and she's like, what the hell's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Then starts shouting about how she killed Natalie. Like she said it out loud. And there's people at her house that are company that don't know she's a murderer. But for some reason, she's shouting this out loud. Of course, they hear it and now they have to be trapped in the cage. Season 3. Joe and Marianne finally hook up. Joe kills her ex because he threatened to take custody of their daughter. I don't even know how many kills we're at right now. There's some other wild shit that happens, but the season pretty much wraps up with Joe and Marianne planning to run away together. But nope, Love stabs Joe with that like paralyzing agent. So he's like just slumped over at the dinner table. Marianne comes over and she's like, what the hell is going on here? And Love is gonna kill Marianne. Obviously, we've been waiting for this. Then all of a sudden, Marianne's little daughter comes and she's like, Mom, I gotta use the bathroom. So Love's like, damn, she got a little girl. I can't kill this woman. So she's like, all right, just get out of here. Marianne, you in danger, girl. So she starts talking about how crazy Joe is and how he was like stalking her and whatever is gonna like kill her or whatever. So then Marianne's like, I don't know what the hell's going on in here, but I'm out. The next freaking twist is that Joe actually took some adrenaline, which counteracts the active ingredient in that paralyzing stuff. So he turns around and damn, he stabs Love in the leg and she's like, ah, now she's gonna be paralyzed. So she's slumped over and he's like, this is what you get. So now he has to set up this whole murder-suicide scene where he types up this fake suicide note from Love to the world. Then he cuts off his own toes to make it look like she killed him and that they both died in this fire. Oh yeah, he set the house on fire. Yeah. So he set the house on fire, leaves Love in there, walks out of there. Oh, also, not to mention, drops off his kid at his friend's house like a freaking newspaper. And he's like, maybe one day I'll come back for you. It's his kid. But it wouldn't make sense if he's trying to fake his own death and then the kid just out there. They would be like, where's the kid? So whatever, I get it. Maybe he'll come back in season 4. And that's pretty much how season 3. Oh, no, sorry. Of course. The last scene is when you see Joe in Paris and we assume that he's looking for Marianne. There's 2 million people in Paris, but he's going to find her. It's pretty much season 3. All right. Plot time. Season 4. And I won't touch on every little detail, just the major themes of these first 5 episodes. So right away, we find out that Joe is not in France. That's how we left him in season 3, but he is not there. He is in London, and he is now a professor of English literature. They call him Professor Jonathan Moore. So we can assume that he's got a whole new identity. He's got this teacher friend that he met after his interview that also helped him get his apartment. And naturally, in pure you fashion, Joe's new apartment looks directly into this friend's apartment that he pretty much shares with his girlfriend Kate. What world is this? Anyway, this teacher friend, his name is Malcolm, and he comes from real money. He just teaches for the thrills. His girlfriend Kate is in the art world. And did I mention, I'm trying to think if I mentioned that Joe's new apartment could see into Malcolm and Kate's apartment. I'm trying to think if I talked about that. 10 minutes into the episode, literally pause your freaking Netflix and just say, all right, Tate was right. It's 10 minutes. 10 minutes into the episode, then Joe is looking into their window and Kate decides to pleasure herself on the couch with the blinds open because that's how we all do it. Anyway, we take a break from that softcore and we get a quick flashback to France. So we see Joe wandering around the streets of Paris looking for Marianne. He stumbles across this art exhibit and he finds her art. Did you guys know that there's 2 million people in France? Yeah. So luckily for Joe, he stumbles upon this art and he asks the art lady hey, what's up with this art? Do you know where the artist is at? And she's like, oh yeah, the artist. Oh, she's actually in London right now at another art show. So Joe's like, London. I must go to London and find Marianne. So now we know that's why we're in London. All right, so now we're going to go back to the present day. Shortly after Joe sees Kate doing her thing, he ends up saving her life because she is about to get robbed by these London goons. So he steps in hey, leave her alone. Perfect timing, of course, by Joe. And Kate's not that nice about it because, of course, Joe's being creepy don't tell the police. I'm scared about my work visa. So she's like, all right, weirdo, thanks for saving my life. Then when Malcolm comes home, he's like, what the hell? Joe, you saved my girl's life. That was dope. I owe you one. All right, my homeboy just opened up this fancy club called the Sundry House. It's super exclusive. Now you gotta come with us. We're going out tonight. It's gonna be crazy. And Joe's like, nah, I gotta do grading papers and stuff. Cause Joe's kind of lame. But Malcolm's like, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, we're going. I owe you one. Get dressed. We're leaving in 30 minutes. This place is super fancy. Apparently it costs 25,000 pounds per year to be a member. So they go. When we get to this party, this is where we meet like the other cast from the season, like all these London eccentric elites of their city. The queen bee is Phoebe, and she's kind of like a Kylie Jenner of the group. Super big influencer, also rich. Just, I'm supposed to hate her. We're all supposed to hate her, but I don't hate Phoebe. I think Phoebe is like my favorite one out of like this group of idiots. I'll go through a couple of the other ones too. Adam is her boyfriend. Adam is the one who started the club. He's American. His family's super rich, so he just gets to play with their money. That's the power couple. There's a woman named Blessing, who's a Nigerian princess that apparently hates everything. We got Simon, who's this weird artist who I don't think knows how to speak, and his sister Sophie, who is probably the least important person of this whole show. Two other random weirdos, Roald and Jenna. I guess they'll come up a little bit more later, but in this party, they're just kind of like whatever and just not nice people. Then he meets Reese Montrose, who's an author. This dude apparently grew up poor, but then found out he was related to a duke. So he wrote this book about growing up poor and then realizing he was related to a duke. He kind of hates this whole vibe too. So Joe's in this party. They're making fun of him for being poor and looking stupid with his fashion. So Joe hates it. And this author guy is kind of like, yeah, I hate it too. So they're like, you know, what is it? Commiserating over each other's experience. Am I the only one that thought this has got to be the bad guy? Anyway, this party's still going crazy. These rich people are getting Joe way drunker than he ever wanted to be. He stumbles out of this party. Malcolm, his next door neighbor, his teacher friend, like pretty much his only friend, grabs him and he's like, all right, bro, we got to get out of here. Lets Joe crash at his crib. By the time Joe wakes up the next day, like hungover, all this, you find out that Malcolm was murdered. There's a knife in his chest and he's just sprawled out in his own crib. Joe was so drunk that he was like, what the hell? Why did I do this? Did I do this? I do be doing this, but I don't remember doing this. He also would have no reason to. Like, Malcolm is annoying and Joe do be killing, but usually when he kills, he actually has a good reason. All right, put that dead body aside for a second. We get a quick break here because we get another flashback. This is a flashback to when Joe finds that art show where Marianne is supposed to be at. He's creeping around looking for Marianne. He finds Marianne and he's like, damn, it's Marianne. Takes his hat off to reveal his true identity. She sees him. He thinks she's gonna like run into his lap and be like, oh my God, Joe, you're alive. I'm on my. No, the girl runs away. Joe is chasing her. They end up in some alley. So Joe's like, what the hell? Why are you running? I thought you loved me. I'm alive. Isn't that cool? And she's like, what the hell? No. You psychopath? Like, you kill people. And he's like, I was doing that for you. Anyway, this whole thing ends up with Marianne like leaving him. Like, he has no idea why she's not so happy to see him. This scene ends, she's gone, Joe lets her go. So Joe's kind of like over it now. He's just like, all right, I guess she's not into me. Back to present day, and Joe has to get rid of Malcolm's body. Keep in mind, he still thinks he killed this dude. So he's like, all right, at least I know how to get rid of bodies. So he takes him to some like, what was that? Like a warehouse? Anyway, whatever it was, it had one of those buzzsaw things. So Joe's in there cutting up this dude, Malcolm, who he met like probably like a week ago. He's cutting this dude up, and for some reason, Netflix thought that we needed to see a dead man's Prince Albert piercing. And if you don't know what a Prince Albert piercing is, go ahead and Google that. Just make sure you're not on your school or job's Wi-Fi. Then we get another flashback where a hitman pulls up on Joe. He tells Joe that Love's dad hired him to kill him. How do we know that Love's dad knows that Joe is still alive? If that was explained, you could help me in the comments. Anyway, this hitman, for some reason, wants to turn his life around. So he's like, I don't want to kill you, but I know you got some money. So let me get that up out of you and we'll be good. So Joe's like, all right, good looks. Then the hitman's like, before I let you go, also, you did pull up on Marianne. So now she also knows you're alive, and that will mess up kind of like what I got going on here. So if you could just kill her real quick, that would be cool. And then we'll be really good. And Joe's obviously like, no, I don't want to kill Marianne. I'm trying to prove to her that I turned my life around. I'm not killing no more. And he's like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, just figure it out. The hitman tells Joe that she's going to be on the 8 a.m. train back to Paris and to make it happen. So Joe's like, damn. He pulls up at the train station, and we're all like, damn, Joe's about to like kill this girl? That's nuts. He just told her that he's a changed man. He lied. I mean, Joe be lying and killing, but damn, we're trying to believe in this dude. Anyway, turns out he knocks her over and rips her necklace off. Like basically robs her. He takes a picture of the necklace in his hand and he sends it to the hitman and he's like, it's done. What kind of hitman is gonna believe you killed someone because you got their jewelry? She could have just dropped it on the ground. But for some reason, because it's You, season 4, the hitman's like, all right, checks out. You. Anyway, the big reveal from this first episode, this is all episode 1. The big reveal here is when Joe starts getting these mysterious messages. Somehow, a brand new app was downloaded to his phone, which sometimes you're gonna have to use like Face ID or your Apple password to get that app loaded to your phone. Then the person's also gonna need like your password to even unlock your phone to add the app. But let's just, come on, just follow along. A mysterious app was placed on his phone that sends like disappearing texts. It's kind of like Snapchat. So he's getting messages like, hey, that was so crazy how you cut up Malcolm's body like that. Thanks for taking the hit from me. And so Joe's like, what the hell? I didn't even kill Malcolm. So he's all happy that he didn't actually kill Malcolm, but now he has to find out who the hell did it. And that kind of sets up this whole season to be a little different than the other seasons. It's this whole new whodunit thing where almost everyone has a motive and all these London weirdos are just weirdos. So now Joe, who's trying to turn his life around, has to figure out who did it. And throw in the parallel that his lessons at school as a professor directly tie into this whole mystery whodunit thing. I see what they're doing. So as the rest of the episodes go on, it's a lot of time spent seeing Joe creeping around and snooping, trying to figure out who's sending him these messages and who could have killed Malcolm. And it's one of Joe's specialties is like creeping around and finding information. So it's kind of like different where usually he's finding information to help himself with a new love interest, but now he's kind of doing it, I don't know, I guess it's like kind of in a good way for a good reason. It's to clear his name, but it's to find out who killed Malcolm. Even though he don't like Malcolm, but it's like, he's kind of like helping. At one point, he's following around Phoebe's boyfriend, Adam. And Adam is that American creep who kind of created the Sundry House. This dude is weird and super annoying. So Joe's following him around. He follows him to like lunch at a restaurant. Now, restaurants are public places. I just want to be clear. Joe finds Adam at this restaurant, and Adam is being rude to the waiter, which makes sense for rich people to do. Come to find out, Netflix thought we needed to see Adam and that same waiter in the back room of this restaurant. Adam proceeds to get on his knees and put on goggles. And you're probably like, why? What is happening here? This dude Adam was just being mean to this random waiter who was just doing his job. But it turns out the whole thing was a ruse. Like, Netflix, you really think we needed to see this rich kid get peed on by a waiter while the waiter was at work? Like, this dude's on the clock. So he's literally getting paid to pee on a rich kid. You season 4, y'all. He got peed on. But it didn't, why? Anyway, later down the line, we're at that weirdo Simon's art show. That's when that crazy girl comes in and splashes paint all over that cat piece. For some reason, Joe and Kate track her down and they find out that she only did that because Simon stole her designs. By the time they get back to the art show, you guessed it, Simon is dead. And they cut off his ear like freaking Master Splinter. Keep in mind, all this time, no one knows that Malcolm is dead. And almost no one is talking about the fact that he's missing. Like, this dude has a real job. And no one is wondering where this dude is. Like, how many no-call, no-shows until they call the police and do a wellness check? This dude is rich. Rich people don't go missing for too long before someone raises their hand. Moving on, shortly after that, we find out 2 things. Number 1, Joe's favorite student was sleeping with Malcolm. That is not a surprise. And 2, the secret mystery texter that's been messaging Joe finally knows his true identity. Can I just stop here for a second? Like, I think it was episode 1 where they're doing like a quick little recap. It's kind of explaining how Joe got there. They show that this whole Love, Joe, fire burning down, murder, suicide was like all over the news. Like, there's no way a subreddit wouldn't have found Joe in Europe in like record time. Then you decide to become a professor of Gen Z kids, the kids who are obsessed with true crime. Like, on his first day at his new job of being a professor, one of these kids will raise their hand and be like, real quick, is this gonna be on the final? Also, are you Joe Goldberg? So back when we saw that hitman come in and be like, look, I changed my ways. I'm not gonna kill you. Go kill Marianne. He gave Joe this new identity of Jonathan Moore. He told him with his like credentials and background, he could do anything he wanted. So like, Joe chose to be a professor, which is like such a crazy choice. I would only believe that no one has found Joe yet if he like moved to some third world country and he was just like cutting up coconuts on the beach and serving them to the tourists. Besides that, you would have been found. Anyway, back to the show. At some point in here, Joe ends up killing Phoebe's like bodyguard. This bodyguard has been causing some static with Joe pretty much the whole time. But he kills this dude, and in true you fashion, no one cares. I don't think anyone talked about it. I don't think anyone said, hey, where's that dude that be watching after Phoebe? They just got a new bodyguard. Again, in the comments, let me know if they addressed that, because Joe killed a man and no one talked about it. You just be throwing away murders. It's like, we just don't, like, anyone could die and we're just like, all right, a new death. Anyway, I was just complaining about it, but the British world then finally finds out about Malcolm's death. And they announce that this Eat the Rich killer is on the loose. I mean, the whole season is a big, like, fuck you to the rich. And it's not subtle. Next up, we finally get the Kate and Joe meetup. And Kate, the whole time, has been hating on Joe. Been like, yo, why are you even here? Like, and Joe's not even, like, feeling her. But she's just, like, letting him know, like, I hate you. I think you're weird. Get out of my face. But anyway, they finally act out on all that sexual tension. Quite literally, the same day that she found out that Malcolm got cut up into small pieces. Is you. Season 4. The last kind of setting for part 1 is when the whole group goes on this getaway to that weird mansion. Now, again, no one really knows why Joe is there. Joe, of course, they all call Jonathan, because whatever his fake identity, but I've just been calling him Joe. No one knows why he's really there, and he's definitely the outsider. But Phoebe, who again is the queen bee, and who I'm supposed to hate, but I don't hate her. Phoebe likes Joe, so she's like, no, Joe, you gotta come and like be with us. So it's this long getaway that pretty much brings us to the end of part 1, where of course there's no cell service, there's no Wi-Fi, and more people will die. And of course, Joe doesn't like hanging out with these people. He knows he's an outsider. They're not nice to him. He hates rich people, but he's got to hang out with them because he needs to find out who's the Eat the Rich killer. Really, no one thinks it's the author? Okay. So much more weird stuff happens on this trip. Joe and Kate's sexual tension continues. Roald is beefing with Joe because I guess he loves Kate. Roald then invites Joe hunting, then tries to hunt Joe, but then Kate saves Joe, but they kind of gloss over that. Then Roald, back in the house, pushes Joe out of a window, but he lands in the bush. But because he got pushed in the bush, he's outside and he's able to hear a loud scream coming from Kate's room. So he runs over there and you see Kate holding a bloody knife and Jenna dead right in front of her. But of course, this is you. So we know that the TV show wants us to think that Kate killed Jenna. But we know, as you watchers, that is not true. And your reward for watching 4 seasons of You has paid off. Kate did not indeed kill Jenna. So Joe's like, all right, Kate, relax. I can help you clean this up. Kate has no idea that Joe has a history of cleaning up dead bodies, but she's about to find out. By the time they get done moving Jenna's body wherever they move it, Roald has convinced the rest of the crew that Joe is actually the killer, which should make sense to like the crew, because like he's the outsider. As soon as he came, that's when people start dying. Like, it all makes sense. So Joe's out there trying to clear his name like, what the hell? I'm trying to find out who it is too. And they're like, we don't believe you. But these idiots whatever. They let him run away, and he runs into the forest. Out of the freaking blue, Reese, the author, shows up with a gun and hits Joe in the face. Who would have even seen this coming? So now Reese, the author, who I said I didn't trust from the first episode, now has Joe and Roald tied up in some basement dungeon, which is like the irony of how like you started in season 1. Joe was locking people up in cages. Now he's kind of locked up in a cage, you know? So Reese is like, all right, here's what we're going to do. You are going to kill Roald, and then we're going to just frame Roald for all these other murders, and then like me and you, we're both good. You cool with that? Joe was not cool with that. He tries to escape, and then Reese sees him trying to escape, and he's like, what the hell? You trying to escape? Forget the whole plan. I'm going to leave you here to die. And he's like, if you manage to escape, I'll see you on the outside. Like, only in the movies. You could have just killed him right there. You know that he's going to escape. You even said it, if you manage to escape. Like, you're going to burn it down. He walks away. Joe breaks out of his chains, helps Roald get out of his chains, and naturally Kate is to the rescue, gets them out of this burning dungeon thing. The whole estate pretty much burns down, and Joe vows to stop Reese before he can do any more damage. And that is part 1. I don't know how people didn't see Reese a mile away, but maybe you didn't. Maybe it was just me. And I'm literally the worst at like guessing like who did it and all that kind of stuff, because I don't even be really trying. I just want to like just be immersed in the thing. But as soon as Reese was telling Joe at the bar, like, you seem like a man who's done things because things have been done to you, I was like, that dude's a killer. Y'all didn't think that? That's crazy. But anyway, we still got 5 more episodes of more twists and turns. I really don't know where this can go, but I would imagine it will be just as crazy as part 1. No, it will be crazier than part 1, because part 1 ended kind of tame. Like, it wasn't even twisty. So part 2 will probably be crazy. Also in part 1, remember I was talking about how like Joe killed Phoebe's bodyguard and no one talked about it? That bodyguard shot at Joe. Joe put his foot up to stop the bullet, and it went through his shoe. And Joe made a comment that if he still had toes, that would have hurt. Because he cut his toes off in the... That's just what we're dealing with in season 4. So anyway, part 2 comes out a month from now on March 9th. So I'll be back with the video for that on March 9th. As always, thanks for checking out Taste Take. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. In the comments, you can talk about anything. I asked a couple questions in the thing about comments, so you can talk about that. But how do you feel about this season so far? Do you like this whodunit angle? What do you predict to happen in part 2? Is it getting too crazy? People that watch you know that it's crazy. From the beginning of this show, you had the suspension of belief, a lot of it. But like, are we into it? Like, I mean, I was watching it, but I was like, what the hell? But I was watching it. Thanks for the time, y'all. Peace.